the energy, get the energy, get the energy. Are you ready? Energy-wise, I think I am on top. After being sick for like a week and a half, I am finally here, but let's get to it. Today, I am going through Kontrol, the latest pack that came out the other week. Now, what can you do with Kontrol? Well, there are so many things you can do, but one thing that I found you guys ask especially about how to make metal trap. So I'm going to go through just a little bit of an idea on how to use Kontrol and how to get started with metal trap. Now, we're going to go into the pack and find Kontrol. So now that we have the guitar riffs up, I'm going to scroll through and choose one that kind of gives out the same vibe that I want to go for. So I'm going to go for really high intensity guitars. Okay, so not that one. And the thing is, I also want one that is like pretty simple when it comes to like its melodic quality. So I'm going to go scroll through. This one's pretty good. Okay, this one's cool. So this one's interesting enough. Let's start with this one. So now that we have this one going, I am going to go into our Memphis pack. And these two genres go very well together. They have a lot of similar qualities when it comes to their frequency spectrum, a lot of how a lot of things are treated. There's a lot of distortion going on. So we want something that will be able to cut through those guitars properly. So I'm going to find, let's see, can we get some perks maybe just to get us started? Let's see what we have. So let's start with this one. So we start with this one. We got that perk going. Let's see, hard point. Okay. So it's got the same vibe going. Okay, nice. So we're building up. Now, if you want to process these drums to make them sound even harder than they already are. So now we have this. You want to be able to cut through that guitar, right? Because that's pretty thick as it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a dynamic compressor on there. And this is a high quality, very advanced tip for all of you out there. Now, the human ear can distinguish between two sounds if they are 40 milliseconds apart or more. So that's what this value is for. So your attack, if you set it to 40 or more, now I'm not trying to distinguish between two sounds, but I want it to really punch through. And anything longer than 40 milliseconds will allow the compressor to sort of pause when that initial hit's coming in. Let me show it to you here. So our initial drum hit right here. So the first part of it will come through before the compressor starts pushing down the volume. So if we have it over 40 milliseconds, we're going to allow more and more of that to come through. So if you listen to it, I'm going to pull the threshold down a little bit so we get some effect. You can see that on the gain reduction meter. So now we got like 6 dB gain reduction. Let's pull it up a little bit more just so we can make it really, really apparent. I'm going to pull the ratio up too. So the ratio, what it does is the amount that it actually pulls down. So now if I pull up the attack, you're going to hear the difference. As compared to. So now everything is just getting compressed down. But now if I'm allowing longer parts of the transients come through, you get more of a clicky sound if it's just as 40, and you get more and more of that low rumble and more of that tail of that kick the longer you go. So if we want it to come back a little bit faster, we can pull the release down. So as it's compressing, right, we have the first initial transient coming through, and then we leave that 40 millisecond window for it to come through. And then there is that push down, and then you have the release of it coming back up to that full level. So if we pull the release down, it's going to come up a lot faster. So you get more of that tail. If you compare it to now, everything's after the initial click is being pushed down. So more and more is coming through there. So now what I also want to do is add a clipper. I want to add more density to the sound. So now what I'm doing is I'm clipping the sound as well. You can hear there. Compare without it. So now it's very clean. Coming through very hard right now. So I'm going to pull the mix down. Something like that. And now let's listen to it in the mix. So what I want to do is I want to double that snare hit because I don't think it's cutting through as much as it could. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a clap on there. We see we have the 1 and then we have the 4. So if we want to add a clap exactly on that note, we have it in the middle of the 4 section kind of patterns. So here you get that on there, but let's go into the piano roll so we can listen to what sound we're actually using. So now we have a clap there, but I want to use that one because that one's a lot cleaner. So now what we can do is we can just like option, copy this over so we get like a full bar of it. And then we can right click after selecting all of them and hitting merge regions. So I don't have to do this for the full thing. I can just copy it over like that. And now we have a full. So what I want to do now is I actually want to go in and remove a little bit of that snare. You can just use the visual EQ. If you open it up as it's playing, you can see snare hit. You probably have it here. So we can pull that down just a little bit to get a little bit less of that snare. Now, when we have this going and I want to add a reverb on there, so I am going to add the reverb and a rich plate. Now I'm going to pull the low cut up because I don't want too much of it. Pull the mix down a little bit. Something like that. Now, what do we want to do? Well, we're doing funk, right? So we want to add cowbells. I think this could work. I think we want to go for another one. So let's scroll through and see what we have. Let's search for cowbell. We want one that isn't that fast. So these have a range of a bunch of different BPMs in the originals. So we want to go for something that had a lot closer to what we already had. That's a bit too fast. Let's see what else we have. Ooh, okay, now we're talking. That's cool. Definitely using that one. Okay. I like that. I want more reverb on there. So what you can do now, remember as I was talking about that transient thing? So now if I add a reverb first and then add a dynamic compressor, now what we can do is we can let that initial thing come through with the 70 milliseconds, something like that. Allow the release to come back a lot faster because we have that initial hit of that cowbell and then we want that tail to come back in. And with a reverb, that tail is going to be even longer, right? So what I do now is this threshold up. If you compare it to before. So now it's really, really coming through. Also, I'm getting a lot more of that reverb tail because I'm compressing. So let's say that the sound would go like this. If I'm compressing everything together and then raising the entire volume of the entire package, I'm getting more of that low volume sound coming through. So now, honestly, I'm kind of not feeling that kick and snare pattern. So let's do another one. Maybe let's do get it. Let's move this one because we have the processing we had on the one before. So I'm just going to move that one over back to the one that we already had. And now we have this. I think we can press this one a bit harder. So actually, one trick that I can teach you here is if you add a volume before the dynamic compressor, you will get more of the compression actually happening because it's volume based, the dynamic compressor, right? So the threshold is only detecting based on the actual amplitude of the sound, so the volume of the sound. So if I add more volume, so I want, actually, you know what? I also want a little bit more of that low end rumble. So let's see what we can get. Okay, nice. Let's go for some just regular old vocal chops. Let's see what we can find. That's a bit too fast.
I ain't know nothing.
Okay. Okay, we can go with that one as well. Let's see what else we got. This is actually nice. Let's get some, okay, let's mute the first two. Same thing here. We can add a dynamic compressor to add a little bit more volume to it because I maxed it out now and it wasn't really loud enough. I think that's all we need actually. So I'm going to take that one out. Let's see what we got. So I'm going to roll it off like that. Okay, now we're actually getting somewhere. Now I want to add a little bit more like sparkle and a little bit extra like ear candy to it. So I am going to search for some trap percussion. And one thing that we can do here is try to find something that is like not extremely busy. So I'm going to add this, which is a good fill to come into the next part. And I'm going to check some percussion in. That's actually some good stuff. And then let's see what we can get. Okay, that's cool. So we have two different percussions now, right? So we have these two. Now what I want to do is I want to pan these left and right so we get a little bit of extra ear candy on each side so it gets a little bit more interesting how it moves. Now we have this. Left side, right side. We can pull this one up a little bit so it actually matches the volume. Okay. So now let's listen to just the drums with this. Nice. So all in all, we have this now. And are we missing something very important? I think we do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an 808 and I'm thinking drill 808 would do really nicely with this. Let's check it out and see how it works in the mix, but let's see what it does. Okay, let's see what we have now. Okay, let's see the drums. Okay. So what I can see here now is that these two are not playing together very well. Okay, so it does have a pretty distinguished sort of pattern going. So let's try something out. Okay, these will not be working well together. So let's skip that one out. Okay, so now I think we got something that I like. So let's quantize it. See how it sounds. Skip that one. Let's pull this one out so it glides properly. Just skip that one altogether. So I am just going through and making all of them the same length. And now let's see that we match these triplets. This one is playing a bit off. So let's pull that one back to, let's see, zoom in there. Nice. Okay, so let's hear all of it as is. So I feel like the 808 is a little bit uninspired, but you know what? Never mind. It's good enough for the video. Let's go for it. So now what you want to do is you can just like kind of explore. So this is kind of like the climax of the entire thing. This is like the full production of what I want to do. So now I can honestly just like separate most of these out, take out a couple of things that I don't want. So let's just start off with this maybe. And also one thing I want to do is, so I want to duplicate the first track with the guitars, and I want a sort of swell to be happening. So I want this one to be using automation and do a sweep. And here I'm going to go for muffled, and then I'm going to pull this muffled thing down like so. So let's see what we got. Now actually what I wanted to do, just because it's fun and cool, let's go back to Kontrol, choose fill, let's find something. Okay, you know what? I like the 4-1. Let's go here. Let's add, actually, let's do this. So I'm going to duplicate the track that I had for the kick and snare, and I'm just going to pull the fill on there so I get the same processing as I had as the other one. Actually, this one, there's a little bit too much low rumble there. I want to remove that. So I'm going to add the filter. I'm going to roll off the low cut again. There it is. And now, honestly, because it is a fill, I want something along the lines of a crash there. So I'm going to go for a rock crash. Let's see what we can get. Yeah, that's good enough. And so if you imagine like a drummer playing this, I want them to be like on both. So same thing, panning out left and right to get a little bit of like movement here. So we get. And finally, I'm going to go into the FX pack because I want a sweep there. FX. Let's see what we can get out of the sweeps. I think maybe along the lines of this, and kind of like that imploding thingy. Let's see if we can pull this right on the one. Okay, we don't need the sweeps on everything, so I'm going to pull that one back, this one back as well. I can cut off this crash here as well, so I'm just going to cut that off with Control E, and let's pull this crash back as well. So now we have the full track. Let's just play it from here. And with all of that said, I hope you enjoyed seeing how I made this track. It was really fun. It was really, really fun getting into metal trap. It is a amalgamation of all the cool things that are like metal trap, like really hardcore stuff, which I really like. If you have any more questions, or if you want me to make another video like this, please leave it in the comments down below. This actually did come from a user question, so we are listening to you guys. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.